The 2019 NBA offseason is sure to be a big one with lots of stars being free agents, and a lot of players are likely to switch teams. However, with the recent news about Durant suffering a torn Achilles, I think it will have a big effect on many free agents and what they decide to do. So, let's go over my predictions for the top 25 free agents, and they are in no particular order. And before we get into it, as I said in my other videos, I have been facing some copyright issues as of late, and I would really appreciate it if you guys can subscribe to my backup channel. I have that channel in case anything happens to this one, so I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. Please subscribe to that channel and of course my main channel, THETBALL, as it will go a long way into helping me to continue to put out some interesting NBA content out for you guys. So, let's get back into the video. First up, I have Kevin Durant signing with the New York Knicks. Durant suffered a torn Achilles during Game 5 of the 2019 NBA Finals, and he definitely returned too soon. This likely cost a year of his prime and a good chunk of his future, as many teams who come back from Achilles tears are never the same. But teams will still likely offer Durant a max contract, and I think one of those teams will be the Knicks. It has been known that Durant to the Knicks is a strong possibility, and I do think it will happen. However, I could see Durant possibly signing with another team this offseason after declining his player option, such as the Nets, or even if the Lakers offer him a max contract, but I do think the Knicks are the most likely option. We'll see what happens, and I'm hoping Durant makes a full recovery and goes back to being one of the best players in the NBA. Next up, I have Kyrie Irving signing a max contract with the Brooklyn Nets. Irving was bad in the playoffs for the Celtics as he showed poor leadership while the Celtics were knocked out in the second round. I think his time in Boston is up, and it's been known he is really considering signing with the Nets as it was his favorite team when growing up. He will be the star of the team, and he would also have great role players around him who should help space the floor and take some pressure off of him. For the third player on this list, I have Thompson re-signing with the Warriors on a max contract. Thompson has made it known that he wants to stay with the Warriors, and if they do offer him a max contract, they should be able to get a deal done quickly. I don't think Thompson will go to either the Lakers or the Clippers, and I would even be surprised if they get a meeting with him if the Warriors offer him a max deal. Next up, I have Kawhi re-signing with the Raptors on a max contract. Leonard helped the Raptors make it to the NBA Finals, and I think he really likes it in Toronto. A max deal should convince him to stay, and I don't think he'll end up going to the Clippers in this year's free agency. Next up, I have Kemba Walker re-signing with the Hornets on a supermax contract. I think the Hornets will offer Walker a supermax contract and avoid a rebuild, and Walker has told reporters that he wants to stay in Charlotte, so the Hornets are his first option in free agency. I think he'll stay with the Hornets, though I don't think that's the best decision for the team. For the next move, I have Porzingis accepting the qualifying offer from the Mavericks. He said that he wants to see how it's like playing with the Mavs after recovering from his ACL injury, and he'll sign the qualifying offer and become an unrestricted free agent next offseason. Next up, I have Jimmy Butler signing a max contract with the Lakers. It has been speculated that Butler would sign with the Lakers if they offer him a max deal, which is something I think they'll do once they strike out on other free agents. Butler signing with the Lakers would provide LA with a powerful duo of LeBron and Butler, and I think they should be contenders next season with some smaller moves as well. I have Nikola Vucevic re-signing with the Magic on a 4-year, $80 million contract. Vucevic had a career year with the Magic last season as he was an all-star and led Orlando to the playoffs. He's a 5 who isn't an elite defender, so I don't think he'll get a max contract, but he should get something in the $20 million range, and that would be pretty fair for both him and the Magic. For another return, I have Middleton re-signing with the Bucks on a 4-year, $100 million contract. Middleton was an excellent second option for the Bucks last season, and he should command a huge contract in this year's free agency. I think the Bucks will offer him a deal a little lower than the max, as it would help maintain some cap space for other moves. Middleton would still be getting paid what he's worth, and I think they should get a deal done quickly once free agency starts. For yet another re-signing, I have Tobias Harris re-signing with the Sixers on a max contract. Harris was up and down with the Sixers as he struggled a bit as a fourth option. However, if Butler leaves, I think he'll get a lot more touches and get into more of a groove on offense. With Butler leaving, the Sixers would have room to give Harris a max contract, and he should thrive in a more prominent role on offense. Next up, I have JJ Redick re-signing with the Sixers on a 2-year, $16 million contract. Redick was arguably the Sixers' only reliable three-point shooter last season given Harris' struggles, though he wasn't a negative on defense. I think at this point of his career, Redick is best used as a shooter off the bench, and it would be smart for the Sixers to bring him back on a reasonable contract. $8 million a year for Redick will be fair for both sides, and he should continue to provide some much needed spacing for a Sixers team that struggles with shooting, as Simmons still is not a perimeter threat. Next up, I have Malcolm Brogdon signing a 4-year, $84 million contract with the Dallas Mavericks. Brogdon is arguably the NBA's best role player, as he's very efficient and can play both on and off the ball. He's a good defender and he doesn't have any serious weaknesses in his game. I think he would be a great fit next to Doncic in the Mavs starting backcourt, and he and Doncic can take turns with the playmaking duties. The Mavs would have to overpay him a bit for the Bucks to let him go, but I think he should help stabilize the Mavs starting unit and would help Dallas get back into the playoffs. Next up, I have D'Angelo Russell re-signing with the Nets on a max contract. Russell should command the max contract from a team looking for a starting point guard, but the Nets shouldn't let an asset like Russell go for free. It would be smart to re-sign him even if Brooklyn ends up with 2 max players, as they could likely trade Russell in the future if he keeps on developing for assets. It would be a dumb move for the Nets to let him go, and I'm sure Sean Marks is smart enough to not let him go for nothing. So now to some player options. I have Horford accepting his player option with the Celtics. Horford will likely remain with the Celtics and pick up his option worth approximately $30 million, and he should continue to be one of the NBA's best centers as he continues to go further into his 30s. He has helped anchor the Celtics defense, and he'll likely return once again next season for Boston. Next up, I also have Marcus Gasol accepting his player option with the Raptors. Gasol found success as a floor spacing and passing 5 who helped the Toronto Raptors reach the NBA Finals. He was excellent as a rim protector as usual, but he is getting up there in age. However, his game doesn't really rely on athleticism, and I think his game should age very well. However, I think his player option for about $25 million will be too much to pass up, and I think we'll see him return to the Raptors for a second season. Next up, I have Julius Randle signing a 4-year, $80 million contract with the Phoenix Suns. Randle played very well with the Pelicans last season, averaging over 20 points per game, and he was a dominant scorer in the paint. He also extended his shot to the 3-point line, and he should continue to be more and more of a threat as he keeps on improving. The Pelicans got the number 1 overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft and will likely take Zion Williamson, so I don't think there's too much room for Randle. Randle should be looking for a big payday this summer, and a team like the Suns should be able to offer him a large contract. A long-term contract at about $20 million a year would be fair for both sides, and Randle would help fit on the Suns' young core as their new starting power forward. I also have Brook Lopez re-signing with the Bucks on a 2-year, $24 million contract. Lopez found a ton of success with the Bucks and in Coach Bud's system, and he was the starting center for a team with the best record in the NBA last season. He thrived in a system that allowed him to shoot as many threes as he wanted, and he was also excellent as a rim protector as well. He'll likely want to return after such a successful season, and a 2-year deal at about $12 million a year will be pretty fair for both sides. Next up, I have DeAndre Jordan signing a 1-year, $10 million contract with the Hawks. Jordan put up good but empty stats with the Mavs and was then traded to the Knicks, where he didn't see much playing time at the end of the season due to the Knicks wanting to give Robinson as many minutes as possible, so he'll likely be looking for a new team in this year's free agency. Jordan will be a good stopgap option for the Hawks, who have a hole at the starting center position, and he should help provide some rim protection and a great pick and roll partner for Trae Young. A 1-year contract at $10 million a year is a fair deal for both sides, and we'll see if Jordan can find some stability in Atlanta. Next up, I have Bogdan Bogdanovich re-signing with the Pacers on a 3-year, $42 million contract. Bogdanovich became a top scorer in the NBA after Oladipo went down, as he averaged over 20 points per game after Victor's injury. He's a dangerous spot-up shooter, but he also showed the ability to also create his own shot, and he should be a valuable commodity in this year's free agency. I think he'll want to re-sign with the Pacers and continue to have a prominent role in the offense, and I think a 3-year deal at $14 million a year would give him some stability and a big payday on a long-term contract. For an interesting move, I have Cousins signing a 2-year, $20 million contract with the Celtics with a player option in the second year. Cousins somewhat struggled with the Warriors in his return season and dealt with injuries once again. However, when he was on the floor, he did showcase his skills and could still be a very effective player in the NBA. I think he'll likely get only 1 or 2-year deals in this year's free agency, and I think he would be a great fit with the Celtics as their starting center. He would form an excellent offensive front court with Al Horford, and the passing between those two would be amazing. I think Cousins would be a great fit with the Celtics, and I think he'll get a chance to revive his career in Boston. Next up, I have Ricky Rubio signing a 1-year, $5 million deal also with the Celtics. It has been said that Rubio will not be a priority for the Jazz this offseason, and it's very likely he'll switch teams this summer. He's likely looking for a starting point guard spot, and he would take a cheap deal to get that position and run an offense. Irving will likely leave the Celtics this offseason, and they should have a starting point guard spot available for Rubio to fill in. Rubio will help provide the Celtics with some much needed playmaking once Irving is gone, and it will be very interesting to see how far he can take them. Next up, I have Paul Millsap re-signing with the Nuggets on a 2-year, $28 million contract. The Nuggets will likely turn down his huge $30 million team option, as Millsap is simply not worth that much at this point of his career. However, he was a great fit with the Nuggets when healthy over the past few years, and the two sides should be able to agree on a new deal this offseason. A short-term contract at $14 million a year should be fair for both sides, and we'll likely see Millsap back in Denver next season. Next up, I have Nikola Mirotic signing a 1-year, $14 million deal with the Lakers. Mirotic thrived with the Pelicans and played a big role for the Bucks as a stretch four off the bench, and a lot of teams will want his shooting. I think the Lakers will be able to sign Butler and then have cap room to offer Mirotic a big deal on a 1-year contract, and this should help leave a lot of cap space for next year's free agency. Next up, I have Patrick Beverley signing a 1-year, $8 million deal with the Bulls. Beverley played well for the Clippers throughout the season and especially in the playoffs, as he was great at playing suffocating defense on Curry and Durant. Beverley may not be the tallest player, but his hustle and competitiveness allows him to guard multiple positions, and any team would love to have him. Beverley would also provide some solid shooting and rebounding at the guard position, and he would be a great fit next to Zach LaVine for the Bulls. I could see the Bulls giving him a 1-year contract at the starting point guard spot, and I think he would help give the Bulls a big boost to their team. And finally, I have Thaddeus Young re-signing with the Pacers on a 2-year, $25 million contract. Young has found success with the Pacers over the past 2 seasons, and I think he'll want to return for a few more. A 2-year deal at about $12.5 million a year is fair for both sides, and I think they should get a deal done early in free agency. So that's a wrap. Thank you all for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video and want to see more daily NBA content just like this, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, and also be sure to turn on post notifications so you can stay updated on my next video will be coming out. Also, follow me on Instagram and hit me up if you want to talk about basketball, business, or have any video ideas for me to do. Let me know, as I do try to get back to all you guys there. Drop a comment down below on some of your predictions, as I do read all comments. I'm definitely interested to see what you guys have to say. So, without that being said, once again, thank you all for watching, and hopefully, I will see you guys soon for the next video. Peace.